know kung fu.
Does he?
No, I'm
Sure.
not sure if that's kung fu or just some generic
You can.
martial art.
Yeah. What is this?
Nothing.
This is. I mean, they're doing open stances, poses.
Those are absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Right, you look at how far away they are from each other. They're what, a good 15 feet apart from each other, whatever that is.
Yeah, and
And there's absolutely no reason to be in any kind of a stance. Now, okay, Lawrence Fishburne is in something of a cat stance, okay, right? Fundamentally, nothing wrong with that per se, right? The Keanu Reeves character, I'm not quite sure why his arms would be outstretched like that and
uh,
in that low of a stance. You can't move. That's great for training purposes, but certainly not for combative purposes.
there's no defense.
You can't defend, you can't attack. That's a
Yeah.
pretty bad combination.
So in contrast, we just watched Bruce Wayne do, Tiger Panther.
Sure.
You know, these guys are just looking cool.
Yeah,
You say,
absolutely.
okay. So there's no like what the wide the wide kick me in the crotch stance for Keanu
Yes,
Reeves.
exactly.
Now, but Lawrence Fishburne stance, particularly, he's not putting a whole lot of weight on that foot that's in front of him.
Correct. So that's what would be referred to as a Chinese cat stance.
Uh-huh.
A Japanese cat stance, the forward foot would be much closer to his base leg and he'd be more on the ball of his foot. That's actually a pretty good Chinese cat stance. It's not an easy stance to get into. It looks a lot easier than it actually is to do and also to hold for any length of time. Now, having said that, again, given how far away from each other they are, right?
Yeah.
You can pretty much just be standing there picking your nose and be just as effective. But having said that, even the cat stance, while a legitimate martial art move, it is very limited. It's not necessarily the type of stance that you would start in to engage with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Keanu Reeves throws the first punch, and
Yeah.
it's like almost as the cat stance is just nothing. Drunken boxing.
Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne, very defensive. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually a pretty good movement. I've never ducked like that. Fun, but
Good.
not particularly
Adaptation.
realistic. Your ankle would snap before you
Improvisation.
would spin around.
But your weakness is not your technique.
I want to talk about that line: adaptation and improvisation. When sparring with anyone,
Sure.
how much improvisation is there, or
Oh,
as opposed to just doing the muscle movements of what a style looks like?
and there's a ton of improv
Hmm.
that goes on in the middle of the fight. You constantly have to be adjusting for what your opponent is doing,
Hmm.
right? Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a good plan until they get punched in the face.
Hmm.
You have to adjust as you go. And your opening plan is great, but it also can be faked. So you need to kind of read your opponent. Let's say my initial plan is to go straight at you, but their plan is to go straight at me, right? There's an expression when two tigers fight, one is killed and the other is mortally wounded.
Hmm.
So these adaptation, improvisation, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely critical mid-fight. You constantly need to be making adjustments based on what's working or what isn't.
Hmm.
A good fighter will adjust their style based on what's working or what isn't. A funny story on that was back in 2013 at the Shaolin, on a totally separate trip to the Shaolin Temple. I had tested for my fourth degree black belt during
Hmm.
that trip, and I was sparring a colleague of mine who I'd known for a very long time, and he's a very aggressive fighter. He jokes, I have two directions, straight and forward. And so he and I, we bow, we get our guards up, and the Grandmaster's given us a very basic instructions. Like, okay, guys, have a good match, show control. Nothing important, but nothing noteworthy.
Sure.
And I gave him a very similar aggressive look. He's looking at me with this aggressive look. I'm looking at him with this aggressive look. He's thinking we're going to be two trains colliding right in the middle of the tracks.
Hmm.
Grandmaster says, go. I slide to the side, I poke him in the throat, hit him in the neck, hit him in the kidney, hit him in the throat again, and I'm dinking and dunking him to death, right? Grandmaster, break, stop, stop, stop. We reset, and he is so mad because I faked him out,
Uh-huh.
right? Now,
Good.
could I do that again?
No.
No, because he's expecting it, right? He didn't rush in on me. I didn't try to fake him out, right? The rest of the match was very, very different. So we're constantly making those adjustments based on what's working and what isn't.
Cool. Okay. And those kicks are just absolutely ridiculous. They're
Yes.
overextended and
Morpheus is fighting
They're
Neo.
basically doing the same thing at each other. There's no, yeah, those would hurt. Anyone who's ever shin clashed before knows how painful that is.
although Morpheus isn't really throwing any punches, he's doing a lot of defensive
It is very, he
throws.
is very defensive, yes.
Yeah.
He's more to the point, I would even say he's responsive.
All right, now this part's absolutely ridiculous. So tell me what. There's no fighting. It's just stance after stance after.
Yes, and there's no point in any of this.
You get that parent coming in. How come my kid can't run up a beam?
Fortunately, I haven't had that part happen yet. And why doesn't? There we go. That was pretty good. Right as he landed, that was his moment of opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? You know, is anytime you do any kind of jumping movement, let alone off of, you know, a wall, and I'm not quite sure how that works, but
It's just going over your head and
Yes.
let's wait for him to land. and-
exactly. Well, you know, during that moment of landing, that is that moment of opportunity because there's that certain pause right after the landing.